2024CCAA 首届精英论坛暨6周年庆典，成功企业家 Larry Keating 做首场名为 The Second Digital Age 的主题演讲。
好，我很高兴为大家介绍我们的首位主题演讲嘉宾 Mr. Larry Keating。他是 NPC 的总裁，通过 NPC，Larry 发明并推出了业内首个安全的托管端点计算解决方案。作为一位技术企业家、作家和演讲者，他曾在政府和行业中担任多个顾问角色，为技术和数据安全提供建议。他将为我们带来一场精彩的演讲，让我们以热烈的掌声欢迎他。
Good morning, and ni hao. But I have to warn you, that is the extent of my Mandarin. So maybe Patrick can give me some help if I need it. Well, thank you very much for having me. I'd first like to start by thanking Danielle, who I've known as a respected professional in our industry for probably more years than we would like to admit. She's just done amazing work at places like LG Electronics. And Patrick, Dr. Gia, my colleague who will be speaking after me, we had a wonderful briefing session. And I developed almost an immediate and enormous respect for his knowledge. And he'll be great for you to listen to this morning. Thank you, Michael Chan, for all your work. Where is Michael? I don't see him. As Deputy Mayor, he's been a strong advocate for Markhamites for quite some time. I've been in Markham with my beautiful wife, G, now for about 40 years. And I know Michael is a strong advocate for your community and for our community at large. I'd also like to thank my son Adam, who got me here today, working with Daniel. Adam has a role in our company and does a terrific job and is always looking out for the company and doing the most progressive things. But what I'm here to talk about today, we are, as humanity, at probably the most important crossroads in our history. It cannot be overemphasized, the juncture that we're at. Sustainability and responsibility in innovation may be the most important subject that we should concern ourselves with. You know, when Danielle asked me to speak, I was struck by the titling, because I've been doing a lot of speaking. I've been speaking on technology for about 40 years. I gave my first address that was really formal in the early 90s at the Northern Ontario Computer Show in Sudbury, Ontario, and talked about nomadic computing, a new type of mobile tetherless computing, we called it, involving laptop computers.
Keating 先生以不同时代的技术进步为切入点，深入浅出分析了随之而来的机遇和危险，阐述了在风起云涌的数字时代，尤其是当下处于 AI 开启的 2.0 时代混沌纷扰之初，责任心的必要性和优势。Larry Keating 是一位杰出的加拿大企业家，也是 Keating Technologies 的总裁。该公司是他于1987年创立的一家领先的技术销售和分销公司。他以其商业敏锐度和技术专业知识而闻名，带领该公司成为加拿大市场的先驱。
This is a little invention that occurred in about 1450 called the Gutenberg Press. Up until that time, the 6,000 years preceding, the entire body of work of publishing was manuscripts that were written by hand. From that time it was invented, the Gutenberg Press, in the next 200 years, it printed over 200 million books for a population of about 400 million worldwide. It was truly the first moment of the democratization of knowledge, when knowledge was shared at every level of society. Now, part of the problem with the Gutenberg Press is who controlled the press, and how responsibly did they act in using it. It was certainly manipulated, but it was undeniable that the information it created caused our world to evolve in a more productive way. We shared knowledge for the first time in history in an incredibly powerful way. 300 years after its creation, Mark Twain, an American author, said, "For good or bad, what Gutenberg has given to us has made what we are today. That's how impactful that one invention was. This little beauty came along in about 1947. It's a transistor. It is the basis of all of our mechanical technology today. Everything we have. When it was created, the chemical compounds and components were not that efficient or productive. But it started to allow us to manipulate information, and in a way that we could control it, manage it, and deliver it far more productively than we ever had before. By 1971, that was integrated onto a board and inside the chip in a very powerful way. Over 2,300 resistors were in the first integrated circuit of that type. And it has changed history. The power and development of that invention today is almost unimaginable. The laptop computer I prepared that slide on has 1 billion transistors inside of it. And those transistors control the flow of electricity and therefore the flow of information in a way that makes me more powerful and more productive. But part of the challenge of all this power and all this knowledge is not well understood. Sometimes technology has a bad press agent. We look at technology and question what it's done. We really don't understand over a much longer view how we have evolved as a species in a far better way. And when you trace down the reasons that that occurred, technology is always at the root of it. Look at this chart. In 150 years, we've doubled our lifespan. And the expectation is we will add 50 more years to our lifespan in the next 100 years. That's an amazing accomplishment, largely driven by technology. Global child mortality today is a mere fraction of what it was just 150 years ago. If you were born in Sweden at the end of the 19th century, surviving to 5 years old. Today, 5-year infant mortality rates in Sweden, and I use that example because we know the data is very, very accurate from more than 100 years ago. Today, infant mortality for a 5-year-old up to 5 years old is 0.26%. Everything we strive to achieve to make our lives better has been made better in some way by technology. Poverty has experienced a complete inversion. 100 years ago, 90% of humanity was in some form of poverty. Today it's 9%. The current prediction is, with AI, we will see the elimination of extreme poverty on this planet within 15 years. Now that's amazing. That is a powerful, powerful statement of not only what we can do, but when we innovate and create responsibly, with responsible, sustainable innovation, we all benefit. The internet, which is a byproduct of the invention of that transistor, is the largest, most powerful machine in human history. It's connected us together, and it's given us an enormous amount of individual power. And that individual power at times has been exploited. in not the most productive and positive way. When you have power, when you're in your company, when you're developing something new, you have to give thought to where could this go? How can it be used? If your sole purpose is profit, let me give you an example of what's happened to the United States of America, being torn at its very fabric right now because of the abuse of technology. Through technology, 1% of Americans control 90% of the money. Coming out of a very, very good economy, a great recovery after COVID, they just voted for a dramatic change in government that was really a protest vote about how unhappy people are with an economy that's on fire and a dollar that's the most powerful in the world. Why? Because technology has been abused to concentrate wealth in the hands of a few people. That robust economy is not being enjoyed by people in the middle. They're suffering. They're not able to afford food and education and the necessities like the people at the top are. So not every time we invent technology do we get it right in its use. One of my greatest concerns is the impact on young people from social media and handheld devices. Now, I sometimes feel some culpability in those handheld devices. Many of you won't remember this, some of you will, but I brought to Canada in the middle 90s a product called the Palm Pilot, which was one of the first handheld devices that gave us information in our hand that was actually useful. We put 1 million of them in Canadians' hands in our company, Keating Technologies. And those were the forerunners to what smartphones are today. But what we did was we innovated irresponsibly. Now, in fairness, a lot of us did not know what the impact of these handheld devices would be. We didn't predict the future. In fact, I think the internet is a little bit of a dry run for us to think about what went wrong there and how we can have that not happen with AI. So, handheld devices in combination have done, at this stage, I would have to say, more harm than good for young people. Australia just this week passed in their parliament a law that says it is illegal for anyone under 16 to be on any form of social media. And the penalties for companies that don't make sure that happens are significant. Much like the GDPR in the European Union for protecting private information. When the penalties got severe, the data leaks stopped. So I think Australia is a forerunner to what we're going to see. Schools all throughout North America are banning phones. How can you succeed as a company if the government steps in to limit your market? That's evidence of what happens when you don't do the right thing for everyone when you're developing and innovating. It's critically important that we do. And we not hurt young people, especially through our innovations, because it has not been good. But now where are we at? The precipice I talked to, the moment in human history, not to over-dramatize it, when the greatest minds in the world are saying to us, we should think about this and be cautious. This AI that we have developed and made work is an incredibly powerful tool. I was there at the beginning of the internet. I was on one of the first web browsers anywhere in the world. It was called Mosaic. And went out and looked at it, and when I registered the URL keating.com, there were 3,000 companies on the internet. I said to my brother, who's my partner in business, I said, Bill, what are we doing here? Like, we're paying to register this name, and there's 3,000 companies. How's anybody ever going to find us? He said, you're an idiot. You don't know how the internet works already. AI is already evidencing capability that will give an enormous amount of benefit to mankind. One of the fellows that I listen to is Dario Amodei. He is the CEO of Anthropic, a brilliant, brilliant guy, running a little bit fast. Not as concerned, I think, about some of the effects of what AI could do as possibly we should. But he is brilliant, no doubt, and he's focused on the upside of what AI could bring us. And it's significant, especially in areas of healthcare. Estimates today, if AI continues on its development trajectory, 2 years ago it had a high school degree. Last year it had an undergrad degree. This year it's a PhD. These are actual tests against LLM engines and how fast they're developing. What Dario points out, because he was originally trained as a biologist, is the incredible capability of AI to solve some of our hardest problems to solve in healthcare. He's predicting within 10 years an elimination of every natural-born pathogen that gives us disease. Artificially created ones are going to be tough, but natural ones he believes we will eliminate. We're going to cure more cancers in the next 5 years than we did in the last 50 years through AI. But there's no question that AI poses some risk. And the biggest risk is not from what they call AGI, or artificial general intelligence, where the machine achieves consciousness and awareness of its environment. That's not our current biggest risk. Our current biggest risk is the abuse of AI engines by threat actors. Regulating its availability, regulating its capability is going to be essential for us to get to that next level of the human experience so that it's good for everyone, that we have a sustainable innovation development. We combine AI with our philosophy, our culture, and our society. It's a sociological development. And understanding it, and understanding what it's capable of doing for us, I think is a responsibility for everyone who's a business person, a professional, working in a role where they can impact the outcome. There's no question that these tenets that I put up, what I talk about its capability, or if left unregulated, it can be distorted. And again, I think the internet was a bit of a dry run for us to show us incredible capability, incredible benefit to mankind, but some pretty serious downsides. That's the moment we're in. It's already being abused, there's no question. I mean, these two images here, I put them up in my talks because I speak mostly on cybersecurity. That's my background. I've been in that for quite a long time. And I put these two slides up, and it's a trick slide. They're both synthetic. Those are fictions, specters. They've never existed. It took me less than 2 minutes to have them created at that quality and that level, and cost me nothing. And now those pictures can be used to create false identities from stolen private information and enable the threat actors in a way, the bad guys, that we can't tell the difference. For audio, for video, even for written words that come through in cyber attacks, we're way past the place where you can distinguish between something real and something fake. That's a problem. I spoke in Washington, D.C. at the National Press Club next to the White House this past May. It was one of my great honors. It was a beautiful, amazing place with a whole lot of smart people. The first thing I asked them is, how did you get me here? That was a question. This was the headers from my slide deck. These are the complexities of what we're dealing with in regulating AI. So each one of these, with a group of 300 program directors from the DOJ and the FBI and the CIA and various financial investigation units, we delved into these issues. And I'm so happy to say that they're taking the matter of regulation, controlling it seriously. They're seeing it as a necessity, something that we just can't let this roll out unregulated like we have in the past. Right now, over 400 organizations around the world are developing AI regulatory bodies. And we already have developed tests, things like CBRD test. So can the AI engine, the LLM, produce anything that's dangerous in chemical, biological, radioactive, or a deadly form? They're using that as a catchphrase to include nuclear and other types of threats. So that we're on the right track there. There is a sensitivity to it like never before. Now in Canada, we've been fortunate to have one of the great inventors of AI who's right at the University of Toronto. His name's Geoffrey Hinton. You may have seen in the media that this year he won the Nobel Prize for his work developing something called backpropagation. And that's one of the key little technologies and capabilities inside of AI software that allows it to learn. But Geoffrey Hinton stepped away from his role at Google as the chief scientist on AI because they weren't letting him speak freely enough, sustainably. That's a big statement. When the guy who created the stuff is worried about the stuff, we should all pay attention. So what can we do as individuals? Well, if you're in development, if you're making a new product or service, I'm a technology inventor. I create products. And I think about some of the responsibilities I have. One of our products that we make is a secure computer that professionals can lease for a monthly fee. It's very secure, and I made it for the smaller businesses. But I had to think about what would happen if this got in the hands of a criminal. Police wouldn't be able to get into the data. They'd be locked out. That's not a good thing. So we thought about that in development as we were bringing the product along. These are the fundamental tenets of good, responsible development. When you're in your company, large or small, think about this slide, and I'm happy to share all this information with you. Danielle, you can just ask and I'll make sure it's available. If you just leaf through each one of these ideas and say, are we considering that in our development? A magical thing is going to happen. There was an old saying, that might makes right. Today, with the distribution of power with our capability, the opposite is true. Right makes might. Organizations who do things and consider these tenets do better. Harvard reports they make more money, they last longer. Just look at Warren Buffett. Now, if Warren Buffett wasn't giving away his fortune at the rate he's giving it away, by an order of magnitude, he would be the richest man on the planet. The only reason guys like Musk and that are ahead of him is that they've been collecting and he's given away. And what a better example of responsible business than Warren Buffett, who buys a company and uses his skill and knowledge to go in and improve it, not take it apart, not sell it off. We have great lessons. I'm sure Warren in some way has in his mind some of these principles for development. If you're in a smaller company, thinking about policies and plans, thinking about staff training, and investing in technology to protect your organization is key. The smaller businesses, that just considering each one of these will help protect your business. Because you're not sustainable if the bad guys get into your computers and lock them up or steal all your information. And the good news too is that our industries, and Danielle, you would be able to speak to this, are moving from buying products and putting them together yourself and trying to figure out technology to as-a-service technologies. So you get to pay a fee and everything's been done for you. This, in my industry, is one of the biggest developments in impacting our channels of distribution, impacting the availability. But what I like about it the most is it makes very powerful technology available to even an individual that 20 years ago was not available because it was too complicated. So I wanted to just leave you with a thought about what could we do ourselves to run our businesses responsibly so that we can innovate responsibly. And one of the key ones is to protect them. Protect your business. Don't be vulnerable. Okay? Innovation has driven progress. We are in an age where it's highly disruptive. Innovation is even rampant. The more we take into consideration the needs of stakeholders, the better we're going to do. There's no question that responsible innovation, and your subject here today, is good for business. It makes you the most sustainable. Thank you.